Kylie Jenner can sell almost anything. But Kai asks a much more uncomfortable question. Are people buying the clothes, or are they buying Kylie? Because on paper, Kai looked like another celebrity brand success story. The launch was huge. The first drop reportedly passed $1 million in sales. Within its first hour, pieces sold out, and the visuals were exactly what you would expect from Kylie. Polished, minimal, expensive-looking, and instantly clickable. But almost immediately, the internet started asking a different question. Was this actually good fashion? Or was it just another celebrity label using hype, scarcity, and a famous name to make basic pieces feel more valuable than they really were? From copycat accusations to sizing backlash, quality doubts, and now a full rebrand only a few years after launch, Kai has become a perfect case study in what happens when celebrity hype tries to pass as real fashion. So is Kai a serious brand in the making? Or are people just paying the Kylie tax? The interesting thing about Kai is that it began with exactly the kind of instant hype most fashion brands can only dream of. It launched in 2023 with clean visuals, controlled scarcity, a famous founder, and the kind of built-in attention that most new labels spend years trying to earn. Kylie Jenner did not have to convince people to look. People were already looking. That was the advantage. And at first, the numbers made the whole thing look almost undeniable. When Kai released its first drop in November 2023, the brand reportedly passed more than $1 million in sales within the first hour. The collection was small, focused, and very Kylie. A 12-piece faux leather capsule created in collaboration with the Berlin-based brand Namilia. Founded in 2015 by Nan Lee and Amelia Foll, Royal College of Art graduates known for gender-fluid, politically charged clubwear worn by Rihanna, Billie Eilish, and Lil Nas X. So the pairing with Kylie's polished, ultra-feminine image was an odd one, possibly a credibility play, possibly just the leather aesthetic. Pieces including a trench coat, a mini dress, and moto gloves sold out quickly. And with prices kept under $200, it was positioned as an accessible version of Kylie's own wardrobe. On paper, that is a dream start for a new fashion label. Most brands would kill for that kind of visibility, that kind of conversion, and that kind of immediate proof that people were willing to buy. But that is also what makes Kai interesting, because the question was never whether Kylie could get attention. Of course she could. She has one of the most powerful personal brands in the world, an audience trained to watch what she wears, and a beauty empire that already proved she could turn influence into sales. And behind the scenes, Kai was also connected to Emma and Jens Grede, the couple behind Skims with Kim Kardashian, Good American with Khloe, and Safely with Kris Jenner. So this was not some random merch drop. It was built to work. And notably, the Greeds handed full leadership back to Kylie just 1 year after launch. The harder question is what happens after people click. The first collection made sense visually. It matched Kylie's public image, sleek, body-conscious, minimal, but still slightly provocative. It looked like the kind of wardrobe her audience already associated with her. And that was the strength of the launch. Kai did not feel random. It felt engineered around Kylie's existing aesthetic. But it also exposed the weakness. Because when a celebrity brand launches that smoothly, people do not just ask whether it's sold. They ask why it exists. Is this a real fashion point of view? Or is it a famous person's closet turned into a product line? Is the design strong enough to stand on its own? Or does it only make sense because Kylie is the one wearing it? That is where the doubt started creeping in. Kai had the hype, the sales, the visuals, and the team behind it. What it still had to prove was value. And in fashion, that is the part celebrity can open the door to, but it cannot fully fake. And this is where Kai runs into the bigger problem with celebrity fashion. A celebrity name can create instant demand, but it also creates instant suspicion. People click because they know the person. They buy because they trust the image. But once the product arrives, the fantasy has to survive contact with real life. The fabric, the fit, the stitching, the price, the way it actually feels on the body. That is where a celebrity brand either becomes more than hype or starts to look like expensive merch. And Kai was walking into that problem from the beginning. Because Kylie Jenner is not just a celebrity. She is an aesthetic. For years, her image has been built around a very specific kind of polished minimalism. Body-conscious silhouettes, neutral tones, sleek hair, sharp glam, outfits that look simple but expensive. So when Kai launched, it was not hard to understand what the brand was selling. It was selling access to that image. And that is powerful, but it is also risky, because the more a brand depends on a celebrity's personal image, the harder it becomes to separate the product from the person wearing it. A faux leather coat can look expensive in a campaign shot on Kylie. A black mini dress can look sharp when it is styled, lit, and photographed perfectly. But the customer is not buying the campaign. The customer is buying the actual garment, and that gap matters. This is the part celebrity brands often underestimate. Influence can make people curious, but it cannot make a blazer fit properly. It cannot make cheap fabric feel premium. It cannot make a basic design feel original if the customer does not see the value. And once people start asking whether they are paying for quality or just paying for access to someone's name, the brand has a problem. That is why Kai became such an interesting case. It arrived at a moment when consumers were already more skeptical of celebrity brands. People had seen enough beauty lines, skincare launches, tequila labels, shapewear empires, and curated fashion drops to understand the formula. A famous name could still create attention, but it no longer guaranteed trust. So the question around Kai became very simple. Was this a serious fashion brand with a real point of view? Or was it another celebrity aesthetic, packaged beautifully, priced confidently, and sold through the power of a name? And once that question enters the conversation, every detail starts to matter. This is where Kai started running into the problem that celebrity fashion can never fully avoid. The internet does not just look at the campaign, it starts inspecting the seams. The first major issue was originality. Around the launch, a London-based creative director named Betsy Johnson, not the iconic American designer Betsy Johnson, but a former Yeezy visual director building her own label called Products, accused Kai of copying her work, claiming concepts and line sheets had been sent to Kylie's team 6 months earlier. She posted her student loan balance on Instagram stories, over 50,000 euros, writing, "While I stare at my student debt, worked my ass off for this." Kai was not legally proven to have copied anything, and Kylie never responded. But for a brand already trying to prove it had a real point of view, the timing was terrible. It gave critics an easy question. If this is Kylie's fashion vision, why does it already feel borrowed? Then came the fit conversation. In June 2025, Simone Biles posted herself wearing a Kai faux leather blazer, $138, labeled XXS/XS, and it looked dramatically oversized on her frame. She wrote, "This is a crime," and "This is not an XXS/XS." Kai's website did describe it as intentionally boxy and ultra-oversized, and Kylie's team said it was designed to be worn almost trench-like. But that nuance got completely lost. You didn't need to be a fashion critic. You just had to look at the picture. That is exactly the kind of moment that hurts a brand like Kai, because celebrity brands often live in a very controlled visual world. The campaign images are perfect. The styling is perfect. The body wearing the clothes is usually the founder's body, or a model chosen to fit the brand's ideal. But customers do not live inside campaign lighting. They live in mirrors, returns, screenshots, and group chats. And once a product starts to feel different in real life than it looked online, the trust begins to crack. That does not mean every Kai item was bad, or that every customer hated it. Some reviews were positive, and some later collections received better reactions. But the criticism around copying, sizing, fit, and value became part of the brand's early identity. For a brand asking customers to trust Kylie's taste, that was dangerous, because Kai did not need to prove that people would look. It needed to prove that once they looked closer, the clothes could hold up. And that is why KHY's 2026 rebrand is so interesting. Because a brand refresh is not always an admission of failure, but it is almost always an admission that something needed to be clarified. Maybe the launch sold. Maybe the first drop created headlines. Maybe the hype machine worked exactly as it was supposed to. But attention is not the same as identity. And KHY still needed to become something people could understand beyond Kylie wearing it. So the brand started shifting. Instead of feeling like a series of trend-led drops, KHY began trying to present itself as a more complete wardrobe brand. The new direction, called Born in LA, featured enzyme-washed graphic tees, 100% American cone denim, hand-studded vintage belts made locally in Los Angeles, and cotton fleece basics for both men and women, priced from $70 to $490. And Kylie's own language around the refresh made that shift obvious. She said she loved the collaborations, but wanted KHY to feel permanent versus trend-based. That sentence says a lot, because it points directly to the brand's original problem. KHY had attention, but it still needed permanence. It had drops, but it needed a clearer reason to exist. The Born in LA collection made that message even clearer. KHY was no longer just trying to look like Kylie's closet. It was trying to turn Kylie's world into a brand language. More relaxed, more wardrobe-focused, and more intentionally tied to the way she wants people to see her style now. And honestly, that is a smart move. Because if KHY wants to survive, it cannot only rely on the idea that people want to dress like Kylie Jenner. That might get people to the website once. It might sell the first drop. But a fashion brand needs something more repeatable than curiosity. It needs consistency. It needs product trust. It needs customers to come back because the clothes work, not just because the founder is famous. The rebrand also made the value question harder to ignore. With prices stretching from around $70 to nearly $500, KHY was no longer just sitting in easy impulse buy territory. At that level, customers are going to ask more serious questions. Is the fabric good? Is the fit reliable? Is the design original? Is this something I would buy if Kylie's name was not attached? And that is the uncomfortable part. KHY's refresh may be the brand trying to grow up, but it also proves that the early formula was not enough on its own. By 2026, KHY was no longer just trying to sell clothes. It was trying to become believable. And this is where the story becomes more interesting than a simple celebrity brand critique. Because KHY is not moving away from Kylie. It is moving closer to her. In 2026, Kylie made a point of saying she is super involved in the brand, reviewing samples, building inspiration boards, showing up weekly, and staying in constant contact with the team. In other words, KHY is not being framed as a project where Kylie is just the face. It is being framed as her taste, her direction, her version of fashion. And that changes the question. Because maybe the issue was never that Kylie has no style. She clearly does. She understands image, she understands desire, she understands how to make people look. But personal style and fashion credibility are not the same thing. One can make people screenshot an outfit. The other makes them trust a brand with their money. That is the test KHY is facing now. Not whether Kylie can create attention. She can. Not whether she can sell another drop. She probably can. The real test is whether KHY can become the kind of brand people would still want if Kylie Jenner was not standing in front of it. Because that is where celebrity fashion usually breaks. The name gets people in. The product decides whether they come back. So I'm curious, do you think KHY is becoming a real fashion brand? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.